Welcome back in the Sports Zone. The MLB is on its way, and with a wild offseason, there's a lot to talk about. Here to talk about it with me is Ian Cropper and Christian Bersuch. Now let's start off with our hometown Rangers. Obviously, they won the World Series 2 seasons ago. Thing kind of fell off this past season. So Ian, I'll start with you. What do you think about the Rangers' offseason additions, and can this get them back into contention?
Well, let's start off with the story of the 2024 Rangers. Everyone died, the end. Yeah, it was just a wasted season. But I do think we've done a lot. Like, if you look at what went wrong, there was a ton of injuries. Scherzer, DeGrom, Tyler Mahle, Evan Carter, who also just substantially regressed in general. But I do think we did a lot to address that. Like, we brought in Jake Berger, Jock Peterson. We'll have a full season of DeGrom, hopefully. We have pitchers coming up like Kumar Rocker, who we'll talk about prospects a bit later. But yeah, I do think we have done enough to make a lot of progress, hopefully get back to the postseason.
Yeah, Christian?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Jock Peterson will be a huge acquisition for us. I think that just the chemistry he has playing with Corey Seager in the past will just make both of them play a lot better. It'll make them feel a lot better. Also, when it comes to the pitching rotation, the bullpen has been something this team has struggled with for the past decade, it seems like. We went out and we got pitchers like Robert Garcia, we got Hobie Milner, we got some younger guys like Luke Johnson, who he might not play for us this year, but he's someone we always have in the farm system. When we need to pull him up for good pitching, we have him down there. So,
yeah, obviously the Rangers have made their names off of a lot of big additions from free agency. That's how they won the World Series. Now let's talk about some departures. Obviously there were some big names from that World Series team that left. Christian, what do you think about those names, and how will they impact the Rangers this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think that we're really going to miss Max Scherzer. I think that the pitching rotation, that was something that before that World Series run, the pitching rotation was a big question mark. And we went out and we got Max Scherzer. And although we didn't give up too much for him, it sucks that we gave up anything and then he didn't re-sign with us. You know, that was really someone we were hoping to bring back. And Nathaniel Lowe also. Nathaniel Lowe, that was just someone that the Arlington, DFW, we loved that guy. He was a very fan favorite guy, and to let go of him, that hurts, but hopefully it was something that'll make us better in the long run.
Yeah, especially since I think turnover is kind of just the name of the game. Like, if we want to keep contending, we can't hold on to these names forever. Like, we are one of the biggest spenders, but we do have our limits. Scherzer is getting older. Lowe was not as good. I do like that the team isn't just resting on its laurels. They're actually making moves to try and contend.
Yeah, it does seem like the Rangers have a lot of moving parts this offseason, but one thing to look forward to is the amount of good prospects that they do have in their farm system. Ian, I'll go with you. What players should we look forward to this spring training?
Well, one I'm really looking at is Sebastian Walcroft. He's a shortstop, and he reminds me a lot of El Bombi himself. Like, he does get a lot of strikeouts, but if he hits the ball, he's damn near sending it into Oklahoma. Like, he is also very young. Like, he's only 18. He's younger than all three of us here. So I do think that we might not see him this season, but he's definitely a player to watch and could be a franchise name for years to come.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the pitchers are what we want to watch here. This team is really deep when it comes to like our infield. Like, we have a lot of players that could play on other teams but don't here because of our depth. So I don't see a lot of infielders being pulled up, but we have pitchers like Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker looked like he was going to be in our rotation at the end of last season, but he unfortunately tore his UCL. And Jack Leiter just didn't have a great debut on the mound, so I don't know that he's someone who's going to be there next season, but it's possible. And we also have Alejandro Rosario, who he's very young, so I don't know I think he's someone that they're going to wait a few years on, but he's always there if our pitching staff really needs the help throughout the season.
Yeah, the Rangers have a big season ahead of them. Let's move on to a national landscape. Obviously, there were some huge moves this offseason that really broke the internet. Let's start with the Mets and the Padres. The players that they've added. Ian, what are your thoughts, and how do they contend for championships here on out?
Well, on paper, I should like the Mets a lot more than I actually do. Like, they got Juan Soto. They still have the highest payroll in baseball. It's no longer an absurd margin like it was in previous years, but it's still the highest. They brought back most of their major free agents. Their pitching should be better. It's just, I don't know. Like, I still remember that disastrous 2023 season where it seemed like they should be World Series favorites and everything that could go wrong went wrong. Like, of course, they went on the magical run last year with the power of Grimace, but I just don't trust them. Call it superstition, but I'll have to see it before I believe it.
Yeah, and Christian, I'll go to you here. What are your thoughts on the Juan Soto signing? Obviously, he mentioned it. It came off a bunch of momentum from last season's postseason run. How do you think his talents will help them get to where they want to go?
I think that the Juan Soto signing has put the Mets on a completely different trajectory than they were. I mean, we were talking about the Mets blowing it all up after Jacob deGrom left that team, and now they have one of the best young names in baseball in Juan Soto. And I think that one thing you have to look at is the age of this team. This team has a lot of old players that they're going to have to get rid of. I saw that Jose Iglesias is very unlikely to return this season, and that makes room for the younger players on this team. We have Jet Williams, who's a young prospect in the outfield. I expect him to come up, but overall, I think that Juan Soto might not put them in a win now spot, but it definitely gives them something to look forward to in the future over the next 15 years that they signed him to.
Yeah, for sure. The Mets made a lot of big additions, but let's talk about a team that had a lot of subtractions, and that's the Houston Astros. You look up in the sky, you think it's a shooting star, but nope, it's their core falling apart. So let's talk about their biggest loss. Alex Bregman, obviously no longer on the team. He was really the last big part of their core. Christian, I'll go to you. How big is that loss in the Astros' hopes for another championship?
Yeah, I think that losing Bregman is very, people are undervaluing it right now. Bregman might not have been the greatest on the stat sheet last season. You could tell he was regressing on the field, but Bregman was a big leader on that team. Like, for example, whenever they beat us to win the division, the person holding the trophy, talking to the camera, was Alex Bregman. He represented that team very well. He was a good person, a character for that team, if you will. And him and Altuve, I think that chapter is coming for an end for this team, and it's going to go into a rebuilding period very soon.
Yep, Ian?
Yeah, well, I think a big loss that happened last season actually was Dusty Baker, the manager that built them up. And while they did make the postseason last year, they still had that awful stretch to start the year, and they just keep losing pieces. Tucker's gone, Bregman's gone, and the replacements, while solid, they just aren't big enough, and it really shouldn't be a surprise that when they made it to the postseason, they got swept by a team, the Detroit Tigers, everyone was calling White Sox merchants. So, I mean, most of us are from like the Dallas area. We are not exactly fans of the Houston Astros. That includes me, so Houston dynasty, goodbye and good riddance.
That's a big take to have. Christian, do you agree with that? Is it over for the Astros?
I think that over is a big word, but it's definitely over in the way we've seen it in the past 8 years. I think they've been to, 8 straight American League championship series, and that is something that's definitely not happening again. But, this team does have some great young players. I mean, Yordan Alvarez, he's in his 20s. He's not going away anytime soon. And the Astros have not been shy to spend either. They're going to spend money and try to be competitive, although they might be bad for the next few seasons. I don't think that they're going to be gone for a long time at all.
Yeah, another team that likes to spend, the LA Dodgers, again, having another huge offseason. Christian, I'll go to you. Are they yet again the World Series favorites?
I think that we can't say that the Dodgers aren't the World Series favorites. That team, they dismantled the Yankees in the World Series, and then they got better in the offseason. I mean, Roki is one of the greatest pitching prospects that we saw this offseason, and they stole Kirby Yates, a great closer. They stole him from us this offseason, and he's going to be big for them in that bullpen. I think that was the one thing that wasn't electric in that Dodgers team was the bullpen, and they took the guy who had who had the best performance as a closer last season and added him to that bullpen.
Yeah, Ian, I'll go to you. Is there any team you think can dethrone the Dodgers?
I don't think so. I'm just going to straight up say it. We already said that the Dodgers are World Series favorites. I'll go further, say no matter what team makes it out of the NL, they win it in 4. I am that confident. This team was incredibly injured last year, and they still won the World Series. Now, their entire lineup is healthy. They re-signed Teoscar Hernandez, Blake Treinen, and Tony Edman. They added so many notable free agents, including Blake Snell, like we said, Roki, Hyun-Sung Kim, Kirby Yates, and they still have Yamamoto, Kershaw, Betts, Will Smith, Tyler Glasnow. And if all of that wasn't enough, Shohei won MVP last year just as a designated hitter. He's going to be back to pitching this year. This feels unfair. It is, the payroll is approaching Mets levels too, even with all the deferments. It is incredible just how stacked this Dodgers team is. If they don't at least make it to the World Series, it is going to be a huge disappointment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They are very stacked. And thank you for joining us on SportsZone today. Make sure you tune in on Thursday for another episode.